The 11th of November 2023, you're very welcome back to Real True Education, not fake news. Aishling Murphy, rest in peace. May she rest in peace. She was 23 years of age. She was a teacher. She was a player of traditional Irish music. I think she had a boyfriend. She may have got married. She may have had beautiful kids and had so much to give everyone in this country. And she was cut down and brutally murdered deliberately and without any remorse by a Slovakian man who the left woke crowd tried to force us to say is Irish, and he's Joseph Puska. Now, Slovenia or Slovakia, whatever you call it, it is in the EU. It's part of the immigration thing, so it's the same as France or Italy from the point of view of immigration. So once EU law allows them in, there's not much can be done. I'm not so sure we should have EU law here at all because on immigration, but I don't agree with it. But for now anyway, he got in, and there was provisions in the EU law to stop people who had convictions and who could be violent and all that. Of course, you might as well be idle. We have something like 100,000 Ukrainians in this country, and nobody knows from Adam what they're like or what they've been doing or who they are. And out of them, eventually, someone's going to get killed, and then there'll be a big heap of newspapers being sold. The newspapers crave death and destruction because they can sell newspapers. Okay, now I offer my sincere sympathy to all these, including the people of beautiful Ashling Murphy. It's just so sad. Now, here is the thing. They're trying to push it over that he's Irish. He's not Irish, he's Slovakian. They're trying to push it over that this is Irish men. You see, first of all, they make them Irish, and then they say Irish men are mistreating women. There was a woman from a university on the radio the other day. I don't listen to the radio. It was RTE, whinging. Oh, we need to educate boys better, to respect women. Oh, we need this. We need to go back to the schools. This fellow was educated in Slovakia. You stupid idiot, you. You stupid idiot. If anyone knows her name, give it to me. And you tell them I want to talk to her. See the way they do. They know damn well people are likely to oppose mass migration. They'd first work on that constructively, say, well, he was Irish, you know, he was here, he had an Irish passport. Oh, he's Irish, he's as Irish as you and me. He's not in my book. Now, I do not have a problem, in case anyone's looking in, with people coming here to work from Europe. I have a lot of friends among the Polish and the Latvian. I get my lunch served by them. That is not what I'm about. You should go through a process by which you're assessed. And if you become suspicious, there should be a way to horse you out of the country. A quick way out. And we have to work to horse them out and beat everyone, if no matter what it takes, to get through the courts and get this made the law. Okay, now, you look at the Planty murderer. Was there an Irishman suspected of that? I don't know who did it, but I don't think there was any Irishman. I don't know, I'm not saying who did it. Right? You look at Joe Dollard. I can tell you that was two Englishmen that went on the ferry out of Wexford and skipped. But I'll tell you an even better one. Here is an artist impression of two Englishmen, and I have friends among a lot of English people. It's a great country, and a lot of them are like us. They voted for Brexit after all. Two Englishmen, Shaw and Evans, John Shaw and Geoffrey Evans, met in prison and decided to come to Ireland and go on a killing spree in 1976. They killed several brutally. You'll get the facts of it online. But they killed one lady, a beautiful girl called Mary Duffy, over in the west of Ireland. And they tied her up and put blocks round her arms and legs, her body. I presume she was dead. And they threw her into a lake. And the guards found her. And the guards arrested Shaw and Evans. Now, this is the point. We'll say that's a warrant issued from a judge to arrest something and commit him to prison. The guard can get that warrant and go out and arrest your man. They can go out and arrest him and take him in and send the warrant up to the prison, and that's it. If the guard only suspects him of committing an offence, the law always said for certain offences a guard can arrest without warrant, where the guard has reason to believe the person committed an indictable offence. And that's a number of things. That's even a serious offence, that's wounding. That was always there. But it had to be within the view of the guard, or there had to be concrete evidence. So the way the law was framed up until 1984 was that the guard needed evidence. He had to either see it, he had to have a statement from someone else that seen it, or the man had to admit it. There was no provision to, without a warrant, to walk out. And if the guard has a warrant, he can't question him. All he can do with the warrant is lob him into prison. Okay? There was no provision for the guard going out, catching your man or two men, and bringing them to the station. And what they used to do was they'd invite them to the station. And then some of them would say, oh, well, I'll go with you, all right. But then the IRA got going and the UVF, and they said, we're not going anywhere. So the man couldn't be taken to the station because the only grounds to take him to the station was to charge him with a crime. And they had no evidence. So if you arrived up to the station with Shaw and Evans, what had you? You charged him. You had no evidence. What were you going to say before the court? Did they admit it? No. Did you get any of? No. You had nothing. You couldn't charge them with no evidence. And it wasn't until 1984 that Section 4 of the Criminal Justice Act came into being, which gave the guard who had already power to arrest without warrant, to take the person to the station and put them into a book and hold them for 6 hours and get that extended for a further 6 hours by a member above the rank of superintendent. In other words, the superintendent or above that had to sign a form to extend it for 6 hours. That has been extended a bit more since. That was the first time the guard could take in a suspect and question him and ask him questions. Where were you last night? Where were you? Were you in Ballyhaunis or Gorth last Tuesday? Where were you? They could question them. They could then, in years later, about 20 years, they brought in law that they could fingerprint them. There was no law to fingerprint them. The early law only allowed them to photograph them. So Pal was taken in and he was questioned. Now this Offences Against the State Act was brought out in 1939, but it only allowed people to be held in custody for 1 day and an extension of 2 days on specific terrorist type offences like firearms, explosives, protection of property, and offence against the state, and various ones like that. There was only 5 of them, and they were scheduled offences. And one of them was damage, malicious damage, and it got so ridiculous that the guards found that where some fella hit a neighbour over the head with a cast iron frying pan and cracked the frying pan, that they used Section 30 to investigate the attack on the man, because the pan was broken, and that was criminal damage. That was how ridiculous it became. And this was the 70s. This was when Shaw and Evans were running riot. And this was the early 80s, right up to 1984. They brought out the Criminal Justice Act, which then allowed the like of Shaw and Evans to be held. So what happened? The guards doing their job arrested Shaw and Evans, had a good idea they had the right fellas, were doing a good job and a good clap on the back, and they held them there while they were getting the charges ready, but that was a long period and they were actually illegally in custody. The guards did not proceed to charge them, they proceeded to investigate, to inquire, to ask, and to do all of this. Okay, and when it came to court, the defence of the two killers was we were unlawfully in custody, and any statement taken while we were in custody is illegal. We were being held prisoners against our will with no law. How the courts got round it was, the sergeant said that he believed Mary Duffy could be still alive. He had no evidence at that stage to know she was dead. They hadn't found her remains. So she could have been tied up somewhere. She could be in the last hours of her life. And if he could find out where she was, he would go running out and try and save her. And the judge held that the right of Mary Duffy to live in the Constitution, was so fundamental in the Constitution, that it overrode the right of Shaw and Evans to have their freedom. Because the guards' motivation was to save Mary Duffy. It wasn't to investigate the crime. They were saying that the evidence gained was merely a byproduct of their efforts. And that was how they got over the fact that this was prior to 1984. It was 1976, 1977, and there was no law. Now you just think of the republic you live in, where Fianna Fáil, Fine Gael, the Labour Party, would not bring out any law. It took an awful lot of effort to bring out this law. And of course the lawyers didn't want it because it left it easier for them to get their people off. The guards probably wanted it. So those who have posted under my videos about Garda recruiting and that need to realise it was the guards asked for this law. Do you agree with it or do you not? And calling guards traitors for doing the job when it's their bosses that maybe deserve criticism, some of them, is not fair. The guards begged government for this and eventually they brought it in. And then they brought in a whole heap of discipline things against the guard if the guard abused it. And there was controversy over that. The Complaints Act came in on the foot of that. Now just get the date right. 1976 was the murder of Mary Duffy and there was other people killed. 1984 they brought in this law and then they increased it then that there could be fingerprints taken and things like that. So there is law now to hold people. So you see who murdered, and you see that while Irish men do murder women and while Irish women do murder men and all of that, there is an unbelievable proportion of them who came into this country from outside and viewed the Irish people as fair fodder and fair for their gratification, and lovely Irish people for their gratification. And it took so long for the government to do anything about it. And instead of concentrating on catching these people, they tried to make me a criminal for not calling a boy a girl. This is the way they are gone. Now, I hope I've explained that. But what really galled me was that woman on the radio shouting out that our kids, my grandchildren, have to be told to respect women. To hell with you! To hell with you! And then they say, oh, they're right. He's Irish, like he was here, he had an Irish passport. No, he is not Irish. He is not Irish. He is not Irish. Becoming a proper Irish person requires to be here a while and be of good behaviour and mingle in and all that. No problem. That is not my complaint. It is these lefty woke villains that first of all try to say, oh, don't be looking at the people coming in. Oh, ignore that. Oh, ignore that. And then, well, he's Irish now. Now, your children have to be taught in school to respect women. Our children don't need to be taught to respect women. They're well reared. They're well reared. They're well minded. They're well reared. There's a big rump out there. There's 80% of the world, and there's a big percentage of them who do not respect women. There's a big heap of religions that do not agree women going around unless they're completely covered and they're looking out through them. I saw them in Saudi Arabia, looking out through a mask, a burqa. I saw it. That's what they're trying to import here, and they are trying to destroy our country and our people. And this is just the side issue. And this is just the start, because it is a big job teaching nice young girls how to defend themselves physically. They're not as strong as men. We don't allow the carrying of guns. In America, a woman can have a pistol, a Smith & Wesson, Lady Smith they call it, in her bag, and she can pull it out and shoot him. That's not allowed here. So we're screwed every way. Okay, I've enough said. I hope I've explained the situation. I don't think I mentioned Gemma Doherty on about Mary Boyle. Mary Boyle's abduction was before the Naira case, where the IRA apprehended and killed Robert Naira, a British Army operative in the north, and the body never was found, and that was when the precedent was set in Ireland that you can have a murder without the body. Up to that you had to have a body. Now, the other thing, Mary Boyle's body was never found, and the guards took in this fella There's no need to go into it. But they had no power to hold him. And they're whinging about the superintendent told the sergeant to let him out, that he didn't want anyone that was religion, he didn't want to bring scandal on the church, all of this. But central to that, we got independence in 22, 32, 42, 52, 62, 72. I think Mary Boyle was abducted around 70 or maybe 69, right? So it was 50 years. And the guards, the police, had no authority to arrest and question a person. They had authority to arrest on a foot of a warrant that could not question them. They had to bring them straight to jail. They had authority to arrest without warrant, but they had to present their case. They could not question them or gather evidence. The evidence had to be there before they arrested them. And in 1984, that was cured by the Criminal Justice Act 1984, Section 4. Give me a thumbs up or a thumbs down. I'm all about accurate, good information, and in that way to try and swing the Irish public across to understanding why I behave and feel the way I do. Bye, and give me a thumbs up or a thumbs down. We'll see you soon. Thank you.